Welcome to New York City, and this is our Best Sights series, Episode 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, New York City.
If you enjoy our videos, please subscribe, like, and share so we can continue to provide you with the best in travel tips, news, and information. Join us on our journey as we give you a front row seat to the best sights in New York City. We'll give you all the important details like when to go, how to get there, how much is it going to cost you, and a whole lot more. We're going to take a look here at some of the most popular New York City passes. We dove a little deeper into the comparison in episode 1. You can refer back to that. And we concluded, generally, the passes save you money, so they are worth it. We added links below to each one of these passes. Now, this video has a lot of information. So if you want to go to one site in particular, we added chapter markers below to help you out. And here's what we have in store for you for episode 2 of the best sights in New York City. First up on this episode, we're going to look at Times Square, the crossroads of the world. Next, we travel to the 9/11 Memorial and take a closer look at the pools in the footprints of the original World Trade Centers. Next, we travel sky high to the top of One World Trade Center to One World Observatory and see some incredible skyline views of New York City. Next, we travel to one of the most interesting and popular museums in New York City, as well as the world, and one of my personal favorites, the American Museum of Natural History. Finally, on this episode, we take a leisurely ride on the Staten Island Ferry and sit back and enjoy the wonderful views of New York City. First on this episode, we're going to look at Times Square, one of the most popular and traveled places in the world. We're going to take you on a little tour and show you what Times Square has to offer. Now let's look at when to go. Times Square is usually pretty crowded, especially weekend nights and during the holidays. But if you can make it on the weekends early in the morning or during the week mid-afternoon, you have a slightly better chance of avoiding the crowds. How to get there. Times Square is one of the easiest places to get to in New York City, since it's basically located in the center of Manhattan, and you'll most likely be passing through there at least once or twice during your trip. The best way to get there is by subway or walking, and as you can see, there are many subways that take you there. We'll touch base on that a little later. I would avoid driving and ride shares as that area can get very congested. And as far as the price, of course, it's free to walk around, but most people end up buying something in the area, so it will cost you something. Throughout Times Square, they'll have these handy maps giving you all the navigational information you might need. The first map will be a neighborhood map, showing you all the surrounding neighborhoods to the Times Square area. And the second map will be more of a local map and provide you with information on how to get to certain points of interest around Times Square. For our journey today, we're going to start you off on the southernmost part of Times Square, the world-famous or infamous 42nd Street. As we mentioned before, Times Square is easy to get to as there are so many subway lines that go there. And if it's a beautiful day out, why not rent a bike and ride to Times Square? There are plenty of city bike stands around Times Square, as you can see by this map, so you could ride to Times Square or from there when you're done seeing the sights. Just be careful. We'll start our walk today on 42nd Street between 8th Avenue and Broadway or 7th Avenue, and this is 42nd Street. It has changed a lot over the years, and to be honest, not my favorite street to walk on, but you might want to check it out for yourself. Now, I haven't been inside too many of the stores on 42nd Street, but a great place to go if you need something quick or forgot something while traveling is Target. And no, they're not a sponsor. There are a lot of options on 42nd Street, and one of the most popular would be the Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. But now we're going to move a little north of 42nd Street to the main Times Square area, where there's always something going on. During the day, at night, And even in the rain. Well, maybe except when we were here during COVID. It was pretty much a ghost town then. Now, if you don't like crowds, Times Square might not be your place, but you should probably go by and see it at least once, just to check it off your list. A few other things about Times Square. Generally, it's a pretty safe area. There's cameras everywhere. Just be aware of your surroundings and keep your belongings close by. And if you buy something on the street, almost everything here is negotiable. Now, if you want to do some shopping, almost every flagship store is located here or within walking distance. Now, if you're hungry, there's plenty of options, from world-renowned restaurants, star chefs, food chains, as well as Michelin star restaurants within walking distance. But Restaurant Row is probably one of the more popular streets to travel to dine after seeing a Broadway play or walking around Times Square. It's on 46th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue and has a wide variety of cuisines to choose from. Restaurant Row pretty much covers the gamut of dining options, from regular restaurants to bars to saloons, even a jazz club and a piano bar. So even the pickiest of eaters should find somewhere on this street to satisfy their hunger. To give you a little perspective, I'm walking down this street on a Monday night at 11 o'clock in the rain, and it's still pretty lively here. Now, if you're looking for more of a neighborhood place where locals will eat and a little less pricey, you can travel to Hell's Kitchen. To the west of Times Square, in the upper 40s and 50s between 8th and 10th Avenue, you will find small neighborhood restaurants with cuisines from all over the world. Now, if you want to learn everything and anything about Times Square, go to timesquarenyc.org. I'll add the link below. They'll provide you with information on things to see and things to do. For example, let's take a look at dining. They'll provide you with a list of restaurants in the area, as well as supplying you with a very convenient map so you can find your way. Now, say you want to hang out in Times Square for a little while. Since they limited the cars in this area, there are plenty of places to walk, sit, or just relax and enjoy the sights. There are also some places to eat within Times Square where you could sit outside and enjoy a beer or a glass of wine. Only in certain areas, drinking in public is prohibited. And there always seems to be something interesting going on in Times Square. A concert, an art show, an exhibition. And we can't forget about the famous red TKTS stairs. And stop by the TKTS booth to get your last-minute Broadway tickets at up to 50% off. Now, we're going to dive deeper into the TKTS booth and everything it has to offer. We'll cover that in our Broadway segment in a future episode, so stay tuned for that. Now, if you can't find King Kong hanging off the Empire State Building, he's usually hanging out here in Times Square, along with Marvel characters, Disney characters, all willing to take photos with you for a price. And how can you look at Times Square without thinking of New Year's Eve and the famous ball drop? I've done it once, and it gets really crowded here, and you have to wait around for many hours. That's why most people will skip it, but some want to check it off their bucket list, and New Year's Eve in Times Square is definitely an experience. Now, some people might really enjoy the Times Square experience, but with it being touristy and the big crowds, others not so much. Either way, you should check out Times Square while you're in New York City at least once for the experience and a few photos. Now we're going to take a look at the 9/11 Memorial. And the focal point to this memorial are the two pools sitting in the footprints of the former North and South Towers from the World Trade Center. These are definitely a sight to see, as they are the largest man-made waterfalls in North America. As far as when to go, we listed the hours below for both the memorial and the museum. For the memorial, the best time to probably go would be early in the morning. And as far as the 9/11 museum, it's best to book your appointment online prior to your visit, and we'll add the link below. How to get there. You could always take a ride share or a taxi. The best way is probably to take a subway. You have a few options. You can take the E train to World Trade Center, the A or C line to Chambers Street. You can take the 2, 3, 4, or 5 to Fulton Street, or the RW to Cortlandt Street. and it's a short walk from most of these stops. And although we're not taking an in-depth look at the 9/11 Museum on this episode, here's a quick look at the prices. And here are the passes that include the 9/11 Museum. We added the links below. And as far as the 9/11 Memorial and surrounding grounds, those are absolutely free for all to visit. The 9/11 Memorial is not only a beautiful sight to see, but a place for reflection and remembrance. Here is the layout and information about the two pools as they sit in the shadow of One World Trade Center. Now, some people don't feel comfortable going to the 9/11 Museum. It's very emotional, and some people might not be ready for that. So if that's the case, you can just walk around and experience the 9/11 Memorial and its grounds. And if you do feel like going to the 9/11 Museum, it's located right here behind the pools. You could see it here on the right, next to the Westfield World Trade Center Mall. Visiting the 9/11 Memorial and/or Museum might not be for everybody, but I think those who go will never forget it. Spending some time at the 9/11 Memorial will give us a nice segue into our next site. One World Observatory. Join us on our journey as we head up to the 102nd floor of One World Trade Center and see some incredible, breathtaking skyline views of New York City. Now looking at when to go, we listed the hours below. And just like many of the sites we looked at, they'll be most crowded on the weekends and during the holidays. And the largest crowds on observation decks usually form around sunset and nighttime hours, so be prepared. Now let's look at how to get there. And it should be pretty simple, since it'll be the same exact directions as our last site, the 9/11 Memorial, but we'll give you a little more information here. This is a list of the subways depending on where you're coming from. Little side note about the subways. They don't always follow the schedule and they are down for maintenance quite often. So please make sure before you travel that your subway is running on time and there's no scheduled maintenance. We'll add a link for that below. Now let's look at the prices and your options. So it can get pretty pricey, especially for a family, but that's New York for you. And you have a few different options on the type of ticket you want to purchase. Here's a look at your options. We usually go with the standard ticket. And if you do want to save some money, then again, who doesn't? These are the New York passes that the One World Observatory are included in. We have these links listed in the comments. We took the subway down to the World Trade Center, and it's a really interesting station. As you can see, the words on the subway wall are from the Declaration of Independence, as well as the 1948 United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, let's take a little look at One World Trade Center. It's a staple in the New York City skyline, and from almost anywhere in the city, you can see it, standing high as a beacon of hope. And you have this incredible 12-foot-high XO sculpture outside One World Trade Center, encouraging peace and love around the world. Now I think it's time that we go inside One World Observatory and travel to the top of the world. As you walk in, you see this really cool large screen display of the world, welcoming you, providing you with information, and a chance to get a couple of great photo ops. And a special thanks to Emilia and Alfredo for joining us on our journey today. Now join us as we take our little walk to the elevator and see all the sights along the way. We're kind of eager to get upstairs, so we're going to speed up this walk just a little bit. And we finally reached the elevator bank. There's quite a few elevators, and it's well organized. So fortunately, we didn't have to wait long. Here's our ride now. I always enjoy the video displays in the elevators up to the observation decks. Okay, not always, but usually. And this one was no exception. It takes you through the years of the building from the original World Trade Center through the one we are in right now. Enjoy the ride.
Welcome to One World Observatory.
As we reach the top, our first stop is the See Forever Theater. There might be a small line when you get out, but it moves fairly quickly. It's a really cool couple of minute show, but we're just going to give you a sneak peek.
The city and skyline reveal themselves uniquely to each observer. Experience the infinite facets of the city beneath us as you prepare to see forever.
You'll have to come to the observatory yourself to see the full show. Wow, what an incredible view. Now we head down one level to the observatory discovery level. Remember, One World Observatory covers floors 100 through 102. On this floor, you can get some education while enjoying the view.
This machine I'm standing inside of. This is called City Pulse. Now, City Pulse is showing New York City in ways you've never seen. The city of the past and the city of today.
Now let's move on to some of the breathtaking views. Now I've spoke about this in regards to other observation decks we traveled to. Each one gives you a unique perspective on the city. One World Trade is special because it's all the way down in Lower Manhattan, so you get a full 360-degree view of the entire city, as well as some incredible views of some other popular sites, like the Brooklyn Bridge and Lady Liberty herself. And they're also nice enough to provide you with tips on taking the best photos, like place your phone against the glass to avoid glare. And for you history buffs, they have a few items on display to check out. And if you want something to remember the day, you can get a One World Observatory penny pressed right there for you for, I believe, $1. Now it's time to leave One World Trade Center Observatory, head downstairs, and on to our next site.
Thank you for visiting One World Observatory.
And we exit conveniently into the Westfield World Trade Center Mall. We thought we'd just check it out. We really weren't planning on doing any shopping. Basically, we were here to admire the architecture and take a few photos. I think coming down to One World Observatory is worth the trip. You get to see 3 sites in one: the memorial, the museum, and the observatory. Now, this will be a pricey endeavor, especially for a family, so it might not be for everyone. Next up on our journey today is the American Museum of Natural History, one of my favorite museums and one of the most popular museums in New York City. One of the great things about this museum, it's popular for people of all ages. Now let's look at when to go. We listed the hours below. You should schedule your appointment ahead of time. We'll touch base on that a little later. But the best time to go is probably during the week and when they first open at 10 a.m. Now we're going to look at how to get there. Of course, you could always take a taxi or a ride share, but probably the best way to get there is walk, take the subway, or a bus. As you can see, you can get there by taking the B, C, or 1 train, or the M79 bus. Now, if you want to include 2 of the most popular museums in the city in one day, you can go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art on the east side of the park, and then take a nice leisurely stroll across the park to visit the American Museum of Natural History. Now we're going to take a look at the prices. We're going to go to the museum website to show you step-by-step how to buy tickets. We'll add that link below. So when you go to the website, go to Reserve Tickets. And your first option on the top will be for museum members. If you are a member or care to join, select that option. Next up, We have tickets for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut residents. You have to enter your zip code, and you will have to validate that you are a resident. Then you have two options, pay what you wish and resident pricing. We're going to start with pay what you wish. Select how many tickets you want, then select the date and time you want to go to the museum. Then on the next page, you'll have the option of paying the suggested price or a price that you wish. Normally, I usually pay the suggested price. I feel it's fair. But just for this example, we'll put in another amount. And remember, these tickets are only for general admission, not for special exhibits. And then you would go through the process of paying for your tickets. As you can see in the upper left-hand corner, the ticket counter to buy these tickets gives you 15 minutes. Now let's go back and try to buy tickets as a non-resident. As you can see here, the ticket price is $25 for non-resident adults. And now we take a look at the last option on our list. This is for passes and city passes. And always check out the small print to see if there's any restrictions. And you can see some of our favorite city passes in the comments. One of the nice things about traveling to the American Museum of Natural History, it's in a great neighborhood on the Upper West Side. And as an added bonus, it's right across the street from Central Park, so it's an easy option to walk there from the park, or even rent a city bike and take a ride in the park before or after your visit to the museum. As you can see, there's a few convenient city bike locations around the museum. Now let's take a look at some general information before you go to the museum, and we'll look at a floor-by-floor breakdown so you get to the exhibits that you want to see. Also, if you can, try to download the Explorer app. It will provide you with turn-by-turn directions, maps, custom recommendations, and more. Now I think it's time that we ventured into the museum to check out some of their exhibits. And of course, one of their most popular and interesting exhibits is their world-famous dinosaur exhibit. I mean, who doesn't like to see dinosaurs? Well, maybe not in person. Actually, that might be kind of cool. Anyway, we'll cycle through a few of my favorites here. And of course, they have so much more to see here than just dinosaurs. Before traveling, make sure you check out any museum's website you plan on visiting, just to see what exhibits are open and what special exhibits might be featured on your travel dates. If you've never been, I believe the American Museum of Natural History is one of the must-see museums to visit when traveling to New York City. Next up on our list is the Staten Island Ferry. Join us as we take the 5.2-mile, 25-minute ride from the borough of Manhattan to the borough of Staten Island and back again, while enjoying some breathtaking views. Looking at when to go, since the Staten Island Ferry is also a means for commuting for many people between Staten Island and Manhattan, it's best to avoid any rush hour times that we listed below. Now we're going to look at how to get there. And for now, we're just going to focus on the Manhattan side because that's where most of you will be coming from. And since the terminal is located all the way at the south end of Manhattan, taking a taxi or rideshare might be a little pricey. So your best option probably is the subway. And the best and most frequent subway to get down to South Ferry would be the 1 and the R train. Now, let's talk about the price. As of July 4th, 1997, the ferry is completely free for everyone. It's odd, as some people still believe they charge for the ferry, but they don't. So our trip to the ferry started in Midtown Manhattan. We took the 1 train down to South Ferry, Whitehall Street. The ride took about 20 minutes, a lot quicker than if we would have taken a taxi. And in addition to catching the Staten Island Ferry from this stop, you could also catch ferries to the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, as well as Governor's Island. As you exit the subway station and reach the top of the steps, there'll be people either trying to direct you or sell you tickets for the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island. But if you're taking the Staten Island Ferry, just walk past them and walk through these doors and up these stairs. As you reach the top of the stairs to your left, you'll usually see a bunch of people waiting for the next ferry. So we'll just make our way over there. We planned on catching the 2:30 ferry. It's 2:30 now, so we should be boarding shortly. While you're waiting, they have public restrooms in the terminal if needed. And don't worry if you didn't know the ferry schedule. They have it up on the big board. Now, which door is our ferry gonna come? Is it gonna be behind door number 2 or door number 3? We'll find out shortly. As you see here, the ad for the Empire outlets, they are very convenient to get to. As soon as you get off the ferry in Staten Island, it's basically right there. We'll talk about that more later in the video. It's 2:36 and we're boarding, and the winner is door number 3. Now, I know it looks really crowded, but everybody seems to give you space, the line flows smoothly, and you don't really feel rushed. And don't worry, as long as you're not traveling during rush hour, you'll most likely make it on the ferry. Alright, in my personal opinion, to get the best views on the ferry from New York to Staten Island, enter on the right side of the ferry, and once you get on board, find a good spot for viewing. Unless, of course, you just want to sit down, relax, and enjoy the ride. It's up to you. For us, we were all about the view. We found a great spot for viewing, and a few photos. And here's a view of Whitehall Terminal, South Ferry, from where we just departed from. And you get some nice views of Lower Manhattan from here as well. Now, basically, all we have to do is sit back, relax, and enjoy some wonderful views on our 25-minute ride from Manhattan to Staten Island. And by entering the ferry on the right side, you get this incredible view of the Statue of Liberty. Of course, we took a bunch of photos. You're gonna have to sit through some of our favorites. We just arrived in Staten Island and docked at St. George Terminal.
Now arrived. This boat is now out of service. You cannot stay on board. You must go into the terminal if you want to go back to Manhattan. You cannot stay on this boat.
Let's speed this up as we get off the ferry. And again, even though there's large crowds, it's well organized and you don't really feel rushed. As we reach the terminal, we follow the signs for the exit. Unless you plan on returning to Manhattan right away, then you'll have to wait for the next ferry to board. But we're gonna stay in Staten Island for a little bit and do some shopping. The terminal is pretty nice. Everything here is well labeled, organized, and fairly clean. But for us, we're gonna head for the exit. As we walk out the exit, you could see how close the Empire outlets are to the terminal, directly on the right, less than a 5-minute walk. Now we're gonna have a video coming out taking a closer look at shopping at the Empire outlets, so stay tuned for that. Not only did we get some bargain shopping in while we were here, we got some incredible views of the New York City skyline. Now that we did a little shopping, we're ready for our return trip to Manhattan. Just follow the signs to the Staten Island ferry. And since we're traveling back a little later at night, the crowds aren't so big. And remember to check the departure times on the big board to see when your ferry's departing. Now you could always check the ferry times online as well. As we're entering the ferry now from Staten Island to Manhattan, this time we're gonna board on the left side and go up the stairs. And remember, for the best views, in my opinion, from Manhattan, board on the right side, from Staten Island, board on the left. We head up the stairs, out the door, to find a great spot for viewing. Now mind you, this is in the middle of December, so it was really cold, but well worth it. As you can see, there's benches to sit inside and outside. Plenty of life jackets, just in case. An elevator, if needed. Today we'll be riding the Dorothy Day ferry. She was a journalist and social activist. They have relevant names for each one of the ferries. Here we are leaving St. George Port and heading back to Manhattan. And fortunately, we have some steady waters and a clear night, so hopefully we'll have some great views on our return voyage. During our ride back to Manhattan, we see the next Staten Island bound ferry on its way. The ferry does look kinda nice, all lit up. As we take a closer look at the water, it's not really the cleanest, but it's better than it used to be. Then again, we're not really here to go swimming, we're here for the view. And you get some wonderful views. We showed you earlier the sights from the ferry during the day, but as the sun goes down and the lights go on all over Manhattan, you get a totally different perspective of this vibrant city.
Thank you for riding the Staten Island Ferry.
Now, as we arrive back at Whitehall Terminal, South Ferry, from where we started this trip, it's time to disembark. Just follow the crowds towards the exit. The lines move pretty quickly and smoothly here. As far as what you can do when you leave the terminal, there's really not much going on outside the South Ferry Terminal at night. So basically, we walked down the stairs, headed towards the exit, hopped in a taxi, and on to our next great adventure in the Big Apple. So, is the Staten Island Ferry worth it? If you have the time, it's absolutely worth it. You get a nice ride, great views, and did I mention it's free? I hope you enjoyed episode 2 of New York City Best Sights series. If you're interested in more on New York, look at past episodes and stay tuned for future ones. Now, I wanted to mention this. If you're going to take the subway at least 12 times within a 7-day period on your trip, basically they cap you at $34, so anything after your 12th ride is free. I'll link the information below. I hope this helps you the next time you travel to New York City. Safe travels. Please subscribe, like, and share to keep up with all our latest travel news, tips, and reviews, and we do appreciate it as it does help support the channel.